bit more today about the town that we all call home. This presentation holds value for anyone who wants to know more about the history of Blacksburg. The town of Blacksburg was originally called Draper's Meadow. It originated around the 1740s as a stop on a trade route through the Allegheny Ridge. It was chosen as a settlement due to the abundance of fertile land and springs. In the 1750s, English-speaking settlers first came to the area. The original 7,500-acre tract that became known as Draper's Meadow was awarded sometime before 1737 by Governor Robert Dinwiddie to Colonel James Patton, an Irish sea captain turned land speculator. This land was bordered by Tom's Creek on the north, Strubble's Creek on the south, and the modern-day U.S. Route 460 on the east. It approached the New River on the west. The settlement was situated on present-day campus of Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. In July 1755, a small outpost in southwest Virginia at present-day Blacksburg was raided by a group of Shawnee Indian warriors who killed at least 5 people, including an infant child, and captured 5 more. The Indians traveled back with their hostages to the Shawnee village in Kentucky. One of the captives, Mary Draper Ingalls, later escaped and returned home on foot through the wilderness. Although many of the actual circumstances of the incident, including the date of the attack, is uncertain, the event remains a dramatic and inspirational story in the history of Virginia. There is a marker commemorating the massacre near the duck pond on the Virginia Tech campus. One of the first settlements created, Smithfield Plantation, was founded in 1773. Shortly after, Samuel Black purchased a single lot, and his sons later created a grid of the first streets called the Old 16 Squares. The town of Blacksburg is named after Samuel Black. The Blacksburg Presbyterian Church was one of the first structures built in Blacksburg. In 1798, the first building was constructed on the south side of Clay Street between Church and Penn Streets. A second building was constructed in the 1840s, which is now Cabo Fish Taco on Main Street. A third building was built around 1900 and is now First Church of God on Roanoke Street. The current building was built in the 1950s and is on Church Street. During the Civil War, slaves who attended worship were required to sit in the balcony, while the white members of the congregation sat in the pews on the main floor. At the time, it was illegal for blacks to assemble for church unless they were under the direction of a white pastor. St. Michael Lutheran Church was the first church in the Blacksburg area. It was created by German immigrants who came through Pennsylvania and established their farms along Price's Fork and Tom's Creek. It was built in 1770 by the Germans as a simple log building with one room, and originally it was called St. Peter's. By the 1880s, the original church building deteriorated and was demolished, but recreated as a merger of 4 smaller area churches and St. Peter's congregation. Whitehorn, a building made in 1855, was a 2-story L-shaped 5-bay by 3-bay brick Italian villa, built with a Greek Revival exterior and a Tucson Order front porch, found on the National Register of Historic Places. Solitude was the historic home owned by James Patton Preston, who was the governor of Virginia. Built in 1808 as a 2-story L-shaped log and frame house with a hipped roof. By 1872, the house became the centerpiece for VAMC. The Smithfield Plantation, originally 120,000 acres owned by James Patton, given by the British Crown, land passed to Colonel William Preston in 1755, who then built the house in 1772. This was the birthplace of 2 Virginia governors. Descendants of the family were involved with founding the following universities: Virginia Tech, Virginia Military Institute, and the University of South Carolina. The house is L-shaped with high ceilings and large rooms. The Odd Fellows Hall, also known as Tadmor Light Lodge, number 6184, is a historic Grand United Order of the Odd Fellows meeting hall. It was built in 1905 and is a 2-story clad and painted weatherboard siding building, standing seam, and has a metal gable roof. Phillips Ronald House, also known as the Carrington Liebrook House and 5 Chimneys. This is a 1-story brick house with hipped roof and double pile interest, built in 1851. The property includes a frame garage. The Palmer House, also known as the Amos Palmer House, built in the 1850s. A 2-story, 3-bay brick house with a hipped roof and pattern book Greek Revival style elements. This includes the front portico and frieze. The property includes a log house and a meat house as well. The North Fork Valley Rural Historic District, a historic district near downtown Blacksburg, which encompasses 125 buildings, 5 sites, and 18 structures. It is mostly a rural landscape and shows the agricultural practices of the region. This includes an early 20th century school, 2 late 19th century churches, and 5 mid-19th century industrial resources. Miller Southside Residential Historic District. This is a historic district which encompasses over 165 residential properties in the community of Blacksburg outside of the downtown. These styles are of 1900 to 1940s, and a variety of styles include American Foursquare, Bungalow, and Colonial Revival. The Kentland Farm Historic and Archaeological District. This is a historic home, archaeological site. This district encompasses a complex of 19th century agricultural outbuildings associated with Federal and Greek Revival style brick. Most buildings were built in the mid-1830s, owned by James Randall Kent, who acquired the land in the early 1800s. Now the land is owned by Virginia Tech. The Blacksburg Historic District. This is the historic district of the downtown, including 137 buildings on and around Main Street, Blacksburg. This includes commercial, residential, and institutional buildings. Most popular styles are Greek Revival, Gothic Revival, and Colonial Revival. Almost all historic churches are included in this area. The drugstore, Lyric Theater, and Martin Logan Store are more prominent properties. The Olin and Preston Institute was founded in the 1860s, following the Morrill Act of 1862. After the Civil War, education accelerated, and in 1872, the Virginia Agricultural and Mechanical College succeeded the Olin and Preston Institute. Virginia Tech originated as a land-grant military institute, the Corps Cadets, until 1923, when it became mandatory for only 2 years. Also, Virginia Tech originated as a solely agricultural and engineering school. There are many more majors available today. Women were admitted in 1943 as a separate division as Joint Bradford State Teachers College. Virginia Tech has changed names 4 times since the birth. Virginia Tech maintains one of the largest research schools in the country and currently holds more than 30,000 students. Most buildings on campus are made of Hopi stone. Those not are significantly older or built during a time period in the early 70s. Lane Hall was built in 1888 and originally was called Barracks No. 1 because it was home to the first cadets of Virginia Tech. It housed 130 students and was converted to an academic office in 1967. It's found on the National Registry of Historic Places, built of red brick, and has gabled copper roof. The pylons in the cenotaph. The pillars built of limestone are representative of Virginia Tech's core values: brotherhood, duty, honor, leadership, loyalty, sacrifice, service, and oath prosum. Constructed in 1951 and completed in 1960, they also hold all the names of those who have served from Virginia Tech. The cenotaph is a quartz block in the center of the pylons, which honors the 7 Medal of Honor recipients of Virginia Tech, who had their names engraved upon it. Burris Hall, easily the second most iconic landmark of Virginia Tech following the pylons, an administrative building built in 1936, with further additions built in 1968 and 1970, seating over 3,000 students. Commencement ceremonies were held from 1936 until the 1970s in Burris. Named after Julian Ashby Burris, who admitted the first woman to the university and cut 4-year core requirements to 2, setting the stage for a larger civilian student body. He also organized the chapter of fraternity Phi Kappa Phi. Lane Stadium, built in 1965 as the home of the Virginia Tech football team and renovated, expanded 5 times since. The most recent expansion allowed the stadium to hold 65,632 people. It is rated as having one of the highest home field advantages in all of college football.